So as the fighting continues to rage on, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that he is ready to end the war with Ukraine, but believes that his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky is not willing to discuss the territorial issues. Take a look at our next report as the stage is now set for a new round of peace talks in Miami.
Two weeks down and the blackout drags on. Odessa, Ukraine's crucial trade hub, has been hit the hardest. It is struggling to recover from one of the most intense Russian aerial assaults. The situation in the region is grim. 74,500 households are without electricity. Access to water supplies is nothing but a dream. Moscow has stepped up attacks on civilian energy and transport infrastructure as winter deepens, seeking to disrupt daily life and increase pressure on the population. Ukraine is also striking back. It is going after Russian oil tankers. It claims Moscow is evading Western sanctions with what it calls a shadow fleet. Kyiv believes Moscow is expanding its military presence to approximately 710,000 troops for a high-stakes offensive on the front lines. Deprived of US military aid, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is struggling for money and weapons to fight against Russia. Though he has been pleading for security guarantees, there has been no clarity from US President Donald Trump yet. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he is ready to end the war peacefully, but he has laid a condition.
You said, will there be new special military operations? There will be no operations if you treat us with respect and take our interests into account, just as we have constantly tried to take yours into account.
Zelensky, who has been calling for unity between Ukraine and its allies, has repeated his warning. He reiterates if Russia defeats Ukraine, Putin will invade neighboring European countries.
Without Ukraine's independence, without our state's independence, Moscow will inevitably come here. They will come here and move further into Europe. Without our independence, Moscow will inevitably come for Poland.
Putin's message is clear. He says the ball is in the court of the West and Kyiv to decide peace. If Zelensky doesn't cede territory, his troops will take over militarily. As both sides are set to meet a US delegation in Miami over the weekend, the big question is how long can Zelensky endure pressure from Trump and Putin? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Mr. Bishop Garrison, who's a former senior advisor to the Secretary of Defense and the current senior fellow and adjunct professor at the National Security Institute at George Mason University Law School. Mr. Garrison, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, what do you expect is likely to come out of these peace talks that are to be held in Miami, where the United States will be meeting with the Ukrainians in terms of what can, of course, be negotiated? Because the Russian president, as part of his maximalist demands, has now said that Ukraine does not appear to be ready to talk about and cede territory that the Russians expect needs to happen before there is a ceasefire.
Thank you for having me. Well, first of all, let's remember that Russia was the aggressor in this situation. They illegally invaded the sovereignty of Ukraine, and now they're demanding that Ukraine come to the table after 4 years of just heinous tragedy and say that Ukraine is the barrier to peace. And that's just not true. As a part of this, they're looking for Ukraine to give away territory that is rightfully a part of their country that an illegal invader has taken upon itself to come in and attempt to conquer. So a large part of this is that Russia is looking for Ukraine to give up its autonomy, and Ukraine ultimately is not going to be willing to do that.
You know, it's not just the Russians are dictating this. The fact is the United States of America, that has backed the Ukrainians in this war under Donald Trump, seems to be agreeing with pretty much every maximalist demand that Vladimir Putin has put forth. With that being the case, how much negotiating room do you think Volodymyr Zelensky realistically has as he negotiates for peace?
Well, I think no small part of this is going to be what do the European Union countries ultimately want to do and see. We saw yesterday that they've determined that they're going to be able to provide at least $90 billion moving forward in order to help support Ukraine financially. Again, this war is entering yet another winter stage that is not going to be advantageous to either side. Yes, there is pressure to ultimately end this because we've seen the continued loss of innocent lives on the Ukrainian side. But again, just simply acquiescing to Vladimir Putin and giving him what he wants is not going to ultimately end the threat of conflict, not just for Ukraine, but for Europe more broadly. He's not going to stop if you ultimately give him what he wants. He's going to look at other opportunities. And I think Donald Tusk in Poland has voiced that within the last 24 hours, concerns that he's going to make a move to come towards Poland into other countries as well.
Interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Garrison, for joining us with that perspective there. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.